The year is 1817. Tensions between the American government and the Seminole tribe are at an all-time high. Over the years, the Seminole had been forming an active military resistance against the United States, allowing escaped slaves refuge inside their lands, and even helped the British fight the Americans during the War of 1812. It was only a matter of time before the two sides came to blows. Ultimately, it was the Seminole who struck first. They attacked a boat carrying 20 sick soldiers, 4 children, 7 women, and a guard of 20 soldiers. After the attack, only 1 woman and 6 soldiers were able to survive, only due to the help from Friendly Creek Indians. The attack would later be called the Scots Massacre, and it would be the government's main reason why America would go to war. Part 2. Jackson's Campaign. The American military quickly mustered a small force of 3,500 American soldiers, aided by a small army of about 1,400 Creek Indians, led by American General Andrew Jackson. There was just one small problem. Florida at this time was held by Spain. However, that did not matter to the Americans, who marched on anyway. The American and Creek forces under Jackson invaded Florida and mainly burned down villages and hung leaders. While there was outcry against this, Jackson, being Jackson, did not care. The American forces took the Spanish fort of St. Mark's and marched towards the Seminole towns near Suwannee River. Andrew Jackson's main objectives of the battle was to capture the Seminole and Black Seminole towns located in what is today's Old Towns. He had marched his men for 6 days across the harshest terrain Florida could offer in hopes of capturing not only Bowlegs and his Alachua Seminoles, but also Nero and several hundred Black Seminoles. Unfortunately for him, this plan would quickly unravel. Bowlegs and Nero had sent sentinels to watch the movements of Jackson's army, and further intelligence came from McQueen and his band of survivors as they passed through the towns following their defeat at the Battle of the Econfina. The old red stick undoubtedly warned Bowlegs, Nero, and the other leaders of the Suwannee towns that Jackson's army was simply too large for them to fight, resulting in them immediately evacuating their people across the river to safety. While all this was happening, Jackson was having problems of his own. John Blunt, Jackson's guide, had underestimated the distance to the Suwannee, and did not realize it until the army reached Long Pond, west of today's Old Town. Quote, I marched very early on the 16th, under the hope of being able to encompass and attack the Indian and Negro towns by 1 o'clock p.m., but much to my regret, at 3 o'clock, and after marching 16 miles, we reached a remarkable pond, which my guide recollected to be distant 6 miles from the object of my march. The general would have stopped for the night had a group of mounted warriors not been spotted. Those warriors were the sentries Nero and Bowleg had sent out to monitor Jackson's army. Quote, at 3 o'clock p.m. on the 16th, the army arrived at a large pond within 6 miles of Bowleg's town, on Suwannee River, where a few Indians, well mounted, discovered our advance. An attempt was made to overtake them, but the enfeebled state of our horses rendered impractical. Under these circumstances, the general deemed it advisable to make the town by a forced march, not allowing the enemy time to cross the river and destroy the supplies. Jackson was made sure to give out specific orders to his officers explaining how they should act if opposition was encountered, as he usually did. His force of 3,000 men and pushed forward rapidly toward the town, ready to engage the Indian and black Seminoles flooding out to meet them. The manner of attack having previously arranged, the army moved rapidly until arriving at the large hammock which flanks the towns, when the troops changed position comfortably due to previous orders and moved forward. The left flank, composed of Colonel Williamson's regiment of Tennessee Volunteers, at the head of which was a force of Indian warriors under Major, now Colonel, Cannard, soon came into contact and engaged the Indians and Negroes, whilst the right flank, composed of Colonel Dyer's regiment of Tennessee Volunteers, with a force of warriors under General McIntosh, advanced near the river to prevent the enemy from crossing. The left flank or column of the army pushed towards Nero's town, but the black Seminoles were able to delay them, while the center of the army ran straight for Bowleg's town only to find it abandoned. The right column took longer to get into position due to the fact that the two towns were located on a major bend of the river. Had the right flank been able to reach its planned position, the army would have trapped an estimated 300 fighters. Instead, they were driven into the Suwannee by the left flank column, where many warriors were believed to have drowned. The reports give 11 killed and 3 prisoners on the field, and it is believed many were killed and drowned in swimming in the river, it being nearly 300 yards wide. Colonel Cannard had 13 wounded, but 1 dangerously. About 27 bushels of corn were tamed in the towns and neighboring swamps. Near 90 head of cattle and a number of horses. After the battle, Jackson's army would go on to take the Spanish fort Penasocia, while Bowleg's and Nero's towns withdraw east across the Suwannee resulted in them settling in central Florida along with other black Seminoles. This battle, while small, greatly impacted the fate of Florida and the Seminole tribe, and would indirectly influence the Seminole Wars to come.
Hello, greetings. You're probably wondering why I'm in the swamp. However, my question is, why are you watching my pretty bad YouTube video when you could be watching some other quality content? That's the question I'm asking you.
Good question.
Why are people screaming in the background?
Quality content.